Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got two replays in the Stockade Obj-703. The Stockade Obj-703 is basically an IS-3A but with an autoloader and this skin. And they released this, what, couple of months before 6.0? Something like that. It is basically the IS-3A but with an autoloader. It's got 3-shot autoloader with 390 alpha. It's got pretty decent pen at 221. It's got 270 pen on its heat, which is nice. 40 km/h top speed, like most of the IS-3s, which again is not that bad. The accuracy is Russian. It's very, very typically Russian accuracy on this tank. 0.46 accuracy is pretty ew, really. But 6.0 is a thing, and 6.0 accuracy with the cruise makes it a hell of a lot nicer to play these days than it used to be. I used to hate the gun on this tank. Same as with the IS-3A and the Fatherland. I absolutely hated the gun on them. But, like I say, in this world, it's definitely a lot nicer. If we hit a shot on the move to prove my point. We'd never have... Well, actually, no. We'd have gone Russia, da, and we'd have hit that shot perfectly every single time before, in time gone past, right? That's just the way it is. There's Russian cannons in this game. But yeah, no. In all seriousness, it most likely would never really hit that shot. But in this day and age, it definitely does. And the shell velocity is one of the key things that the IS-3A, Stockade, Glory, the Fatherland, the Scourge, Kirovets 1. That's the one thing that all these 3, 4, 5 tanks have in common, and that is 1400 shell velocity, which is absolutely beautiful because this gun is used on so many different tanks at this point. And that shell velocity is absolutely glorious on this heavy tank. And it really helps you for shooting at those distances, even where the accuracy is absolutely tragic. It does also have a 3.2 second aim time, which is pretty damn long, which is something you might want to help out. As well as being blind as a bat like most other Russian tanks at 350 meters view range. But that's a general overview of the stats for it. In terms of a crew on the Stockade, I do run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Trap Mechanic, Steady Aim, Snapshot, Run and Gun, Off-Road Driving. Pretty generic crew for a heavy tank, realistically, because I want off-road driving to help my ground resistances as much as possible. Just help the mobility of the tank keep going as much as I humanly can, hit the 40 km/h top speed, help with track traverse a little bit, how it goes. And then I'm a heavy tank, so I rely on my gun. So I want my gun handling to be as good as possible, especially since it is actually pretty tragic in terms of its base stats. So I help it out as much as humanly possible. And then all the other perks I generally run all the time on most tanks. And in terms of equipment, I do run optics, vert stabs, and a GLD. Again, a GLD because the aim time on this tank is so tragic at 3.2 seconds that I want to make that as good as humanly possible. Vert stabs, again, to make the gun as good as it can be, because otherwise it is really a horrible thing to play. Like, what happened to that shot? It actually went straight underneath that guy. When most of the... I mean, if it hit the upper plate and ricocheted, it would have been like, oh, alright. But it went underneath him, which was the slimmest shot it could have picked to go under. Thanks, RNG. Proof I'm pointing to this gun. That's why I want the vert stabs. Even with the vert stabs, it's like that. So, god-awful. Imagine if it didn't have them. And then optics to be able to spot for myself, because I am absolutely blind as a bat, and you want to make sure that your view range is as good as humanly possible, because in World War II especially, view range is king. So in this game so far, we have managed 4,500 damage, make that... Do we get the kill on the T-28 there? Not quite. We're to 4 kills, 4,500 damage, bit of blocked, and we're going for this shot into this T-28. We have the heat loaded because we knew we were going for the T-28, and the 270 pen heat is going to absolutely wreck that guy. This is obviously before they buffed the T-28, sorry, to the HD version, because the HD version of the T-28 is a buff for that tank because the armor plates are actually slightly stronger in a lot of the places, and because of the angles and stuff like that, it's actually more likely to bounce those sorts of shots. Whereas I could absolutely wreck that guy's poor lower plate. I can still wreck the underside of his gun, but it's a bit harder to hit on the new model, especially if he covers it, whereas that one is like anywhere on that plate that you saw me destroy with the heat, it just gets absolutely smashed really easily. But yeah, we managed to shut that guy down. There's only 3 tanks left on the enemy team. There's the medium tank in the middle, which we've got the APCR loaded, so hopefully if we get a chance to have a shot at him, we won't have to lead as much. The M44, the artillery, gets shut down, and we're just trying to get in behind this tank destroyer that's in front of us, because we're on for a top gun, and we want to get that top gun. So the T-34 gets a shot into the rear of this Su-130PM. We get round to finish him off, and there's only 1 tank left on the enemy team. We've secured that top gun, which is great, but we're trying to get into position to get a shot at this Jackal. But the Jackal is a little bit far away. We've got to try not to kill ourselves here, because this is quite perilous, but thankfully the Jackal gets shut down before we manage to blow ourselves up with my impeccable driving. And I finished with the victory, the 6 kills, 4,900 damage, ace tanker, the sniper, the high caliber, the top gun, 2010 base XP, really nice game in the Stockade. Like I say, it's a pretty damn solid tank. Like all the IS-3 variants, it does start to struggle in bottom tier matchups because the armour doesn't hold up anywhere near as much, and because the gun is derpy as all hell, you have to aim it quite a lot more than you would a fair few other guns, so sometimes you have to expose yourself for a little bit too long in front of tier 10 tanks, and it can lead to a problem. But your 270 heat pen in that regard is something that is great, because that means you do manage to butcher a lot of tanks that fair few other tanks might struggle with at tier 8. So we're on to the second game. The second game, we're on Cliff, and we are going to go to the donut half moon bowl thing at E2 and F2. We're going to move in there because I've got an autoloader, and anything that tries to take it, I can try and delete with my autoloader. And also to try and get position at E3 so that I can shoot the things that cross along the B line for the enemy team. So this Tiger 1's come in, and it's like, well, hello, Mr. Tiger 1. You've made mistakes, my friend. We get 1 shot into his upper plate, get the second shot in to finish him off. We take a hit from something that's there. We didn't spot it. That goes to show how bad our view range is. But instead of worrying about that tank, we pop the reload, get the shells in. We're just watching what's happening. We've got a few people that are sitting along the 1-2 line, but a lot of our team have actually gone up north, well, gone to fight at F6, which is definitely nice. We're just waiting for the reload now before we pop over and expose ourselves to the enemy team so that they should already know I'm here, but before making our pure presence known. And this is why, because we catch this Indian Panzer out, we get 1 in, and I was kind of hoping to track him in place so that I could get the other shells in pretty easily, but unfortunately that's not quite the case. I'm quite prepared to take a shot here from the Indian Panzer so I can deliver these other 2 shells. We get that 1 in, and unfortunately that shell derps and we only do track damage, which is really annoying. But we're up to 1,500 damage so far, and the Indian Panzer does manage to get another shot into us, which kind of sad. I was hoping to make it so that it was on low enough that I could finish him off with 1 shot with the next clip. Is what it is. And we are nearly ready to go. It's another thing that's about the Stockade that I feel is quite nice, is the fact that you don't always feel like the reload is terribly long, and you're pretty much ready to go quite quick. Fortunately enough, the Indian Panzer managed to bounce on us. He's doing his best to avoid our shell, but we're not having it. We get to shut him down. We're at 2.1k damage. We've got 1 shell left, looking for the back of that ARL. Oh, and we set him on fire too. Oh, he gets shut down by, I thought he'd put it out with a fire extinguisher. He gets shut down by the Astron Rex, so we don't quite get the kill. But we're up to 2.6k damage, and I decide, you know what, we've taken the top end except for that medium tank on the hill. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to poke over this little ridge and spot the enemy team, and hopefully I'll get some assistance from my team sitting along the 1 line. We do spot this Dreadnought out in the open. We are hull down, so at this point we can actually farm that poor guy for all of his hit points in 1 clip, which is great because the Dreadnought would have deleted us if he penned us, which is something that we're not going to have happen. I'm just being very, very careful because of the thing on the hill, and because I think it's a Barask, which means he could easily double tap us. We'll see in a minute if we look. Yeah, it is a Barask. So we're just playing very, very, very carefully about that guy. He's actually going in, though, on this medium tank, so I'm thinking, okay, let's try and help this medium tank out if we can. He is now in an open position for us to shoot him. We track him in place, but we don't quite get the pen on him. But we do get the second shell in, and then the third shell gets to shut down that Barask. We're up to 4 kills with 4.5k damage now, which the damage is ticking up, which is nice. And yeah, does anybody realise what I'm doing? Can anyone see it yet? Can anyone see the mistake? I didn't. I did not see the mistake, and you're going to see in a bit that I did not see that mistake. I'm loading one shell, which is something that can happen when you've got an awkward amount of shells. You just have to pay attention to how many shells you've got in, but you don't always pay attention when you're going. Bad driving. I could have quite easily blown up there. But yeah, here's where I realise. You hear that clicking? That's me pulling the trigger going, yes, I can get damage at this guy. I've got 2 shells left. Oh. I didn't even realise I was reloading. That's how little I was paying attention to that clip. But, fortunately enough, because the reload's pretty damn quick on the Stockade, we actually get the shell in to finish off that Alpine Tiger. The Super Hellcat's crossing on the upper bit. We're aiming up the shot, get that shot into him, and it's like, please let me get the 7th kill. And, oh, the high rolls. 425. We'll take the high roll. We finish off that Super Hellcat, and we finish with the epic victory. Top on the team, 7 kills, 5.7k damage, 476 assistance. Devastator, high caliber, top gun, sniper, 2.2k base XP. A really nice game in the Stockade, which is actually the tank that I've got my 2nd highest damage in a tier 8 tank now, behind the Caliban. There is a video on the tank. That's a lot of damage. You'll see me do my highest at that point damage in a tier 8 tank, and then the Caliban came along. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success!